Dear Jennifer Jones, it's a pleasure to meet you. You are the president of the International Rotary, Rotary International, for 2022-2023. Thank you for coming in Europe at the OMS. Thanks again.
Oh, my pleasure.
Could you tell us some information about this conference, the health for mother and child, with a subject very important for Rotary, and also it's one of the important subjects of the Rotary Foundation.
Absolutely, one of our areas of focus. So the conference is a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to first focus on what we've been doing with our polio efforts. And so with the WHO as one of our primary partners, along with the CDC and UNICEF and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Gavi, a chance to look at how much longer, how much further we need to go, and what do we need to do to eradicate this disease. But the reason why we're also talking about maternal and child health is because with polio, we've had the opportunity to create a huge public health infrastructure, which enables us to tackle things even more broadly than polio. And what we've seen is that by creating community health workers, frontline community health workers, that we're able to tackle not only polio, but things like measles and tuberculosis, diarrheal illness, Ebola, the coronavirus, certainly a very...
And many other vaccines.
Exactly. So as part of routine immunizations, so this public health infrastructure, it will have a legacy well past polio. And when we look at what we can do for mothers and for children, this plays a big role in how we're going to be successful globally moving forward. So there are two topics that are very interrelated. And then we can take the lessons learned and talk about things like we did earlier today, the example of malaria. How do we make sure that children, for example, I was recently in Zambia. We have a big program there, a partnership with Rotary, the Gates Foundation, and World Vision, yes, where we've put $6 million into a program to eliminate malaria in that country. Well, in the two provinces where we're testing it, the mortality rate has dropped by 50%. This is in 1 year. This is huge. Our ability to then replicate that is incredible, because the #1 killer of children under the age of 5 there is malaria. So the difference that we can make for those children is incredible. But if you have a sick child, then you have parents, both a mom
Sure.
and a dad, who have to take care of the child. They can't work, they can't help their family. So everyone needs to be healthy for everyone in the family to succeed.
Why Rotary members and maybe other people have to rejoin the Polio Plus Circle?
Well, something that you just said is that it's about the heart, how it touches your heart. And I think that for all of us, for Rotary, our Rotary family, all of us as members, we may belong to a Rotary club in Genève, we may belong to a Rotary club in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. But because we belong to an organization that exists in 200 countries and geographical areas, we can metaphorically remove the borders, and that we belong as one...
Remove the borders.
Remove the borders.
Import.
And that we belong as one world. And so when something happens to someone in another part of the world, it touches us. If we watch the situation in Ukraine, we have 1,100 members there. It means something to us. If we see the flooding going on in Pakistan, in Nigeria, we know people, we have friends, because we are a network of community leaders and problem solvers. And because we're people of action, we want to take action. We're people of influence, people of purpose. And that means that when we see these things, we need to take action. So for polio, part of the way that we take action is, yes, raising the critical funds that we need to raise every year, $50 million that we've committed to yearly.
Sure.
It's incredibly important. But it's also our voices, using our voices in advocacy to government. Because we're leaders in our own communities, we have the connections to be able to lean on our governments, to lean on corporations, to say, please help us. please make sure that you keep your eye on this and that it remains top of mind for everyone. Because until the last case is gone, everyone is at risk. It can come back in a very large way. So we have an obligation, a responsibility, I would say, to make sure that we talk about it and that we make sure that everyone comes along to help us solve and finally eradicate this disease.
Jennifer, you know, a few days ago, French government said for the first time, I go in this program and I give, I don't remember, something like 50 million
I think
euro.
it was 50, yeah.
It's very important. All over the money, over the 50 millions, it's important that it gives an opportunity to create something like a big movement.
Exactly. And when one government says we're going to support this, other government says that they're going to support it, others then believe we collectively
One
need...
by one by one.
Exactly. And so when we held the pledging moment in Germany, in Berlin recently, $2.6 billion were pledged. 150 of that is our Rotary money. But the German government, the French government, many governments stepped up. And
government and also some people like Bill and Melinda Gates.
$1.2 billion pledged at that moment. It is. It's absolutely fantastic. And that's one of our trusted partners. And we all know that we're not walking away from this. We know that as a collective, we are going to stay in it. We're going to keep our foot on the gas and make sure that everybody else understands that we have the ability to do this. Science tells us that we are close, closer than we've ever been before. So we need to make sure that we continue to try hard.
Dear Jennifer Jones, dear President of International Rotary, thank you again for this appointment, this interview. It's a kindly interview. Thank you also for smiling. Thank you for coming in Europe, in Geneva, in Switzerland. Last but not least, could you tell to the Rotary members of District 1710 some word in French?
Chers Rotariens, merci pour votre engagement pour l'éradication de la polio et la santé de la mère et de l'enfant.